You might have noticed that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are consistently and persistently in the headlines with all sorts of tittle-tattle, gossip and bits and pieces that you probably don't want to know about. But some of the recent news suggests that he might be looking at doing a new book. Now, you might remember from the Daily Mail about a year and 6 months ago, January last year, they wrote that Harry said that he had enough material to write another book to follow up the book Spare. And so this is one of the articles that caught my attention today. Now, before you dash off, I'm not going to talk about that in this video. What I am going to talk about is the legal aspect of newspapers reporting this sort of stuff, because lots of people ask the question, is it possible these newspapers just make things up? And the short answer is yes, and the longer answer is, as always, a bit more complicated. So I will go through that in this video. But for those of you that are interested in this gossipy type stuff, don't worry, I'm not going to do it here on Black Belt Barrister, as some people complain about when I do it over on Black Belt Secrets. So if you've never heard of Black Belt Secrets, that's my sister channel where I have a little outlet for gossip and all that sort of stuff. There's all sorts of different things going on there whereby they're talking about a frosty relationship that they'd like to rebuild with the royal family. They talk about missing out on and ruining their relationships and things like that. The newspapers, that is, talking about Harry and Meghan. And possibly he's coming back to the UK, he's looking for a house here and all of these kind of things. So if you're interested in all of that sort of stuff, head over and subscribe to Black Belt Secrets. But for the purposes of this video, it's a very interesting discussion as to what the newspapers can print and say when they rely on a source. Now, there's a very interesting long chat that I did with our Alan Robert Shaw, host now of Art of Law, yes it rhymes, that I did with him when I went down to see him in Cornwall. Now, that video is 41 and a bit minutes long. We talk about this in great detail, but I will give you the shortened version here. I'll link this video in the description below for you to go and read as well. Now, it's very interesting because when a newspaper writes something about a celebrity or a politician, someone in the public eye, they can pretty much write what they want. And it's supposed to be based, it really ought to be based on the truth and facts and a source and information that they've gathered. They should fact check and all of these kind of things, particularly if they make any allegations, because if the allegations are defamatory and they're not true, then they can get into all sorts of serious trouble. I've represented professionals that have had things written about them that are patently untrue, and they've had photographs in the newspapers and the headliner said, this is so-and-so, and it's not. And therefore it's defamatory. And so they've settled very quickly because they realized they're wrong, they will lose in court and so on. However, when they just write about information like this, they are not required to reveal who their sources are. Now, then many people might say, well, can't the court just order them to tell them who it is? Wouldn't it be contempt of court if they don't tell the court who it is? Well, there's a very interesting answer to that, and it's found in Section 10 of the Contempt of Court Act, which provides that the sources of information, no court may require a person to disclose, nor is any person guilty of contempt of court for refusing to disclose the source of information contained in a publication for which he is responsible, unless it be established to the satisfaction of the court that disclosure is necessary in the interest of justice or national security, or for the prevention of disorder or crime. So in other words, it's got to be a very serious thing for the court to order the disclosure of the names and the sources of some information. And that's the Contempt of Court Act 1981. And in short, what that means is that a newspaper can, in theory, just print anything, and no one can force them to identify the source of that information. Of course, I'm not suggesting any newspaper does that, and certainly not any newspaper in particular that does that, but in theory, it's entirely possible. But what they really ought to do is fact check, and they have a source from whom they obtain this information, and then it ends up in print. Now, as you'll hear from the discussion between myself and my learned friend Alan Robert Shaw, the source is very often the person themselves. Not always, but it very often is. So as Al said, a source close to the cabinet may well be the cabinet. A source close to the Prime Minister may well be the Prime Minister. So a source close to Harry and or Meghan about what they're doing and what their plans are and all these kind of things. For example, they're apparently talking about looking for somewhere to come back and live in the UK and all of these kind of things. But Meghan apparently has got this condition that he's got to sort the security out, he's got to sort somewhere out to live, etc. Apparently all of that came from a source close to or an insider that knows Harry and Meghan, or one or the other. But that could well be them themselves. Now, you're entitled to your thoughts and you're welcome to leave those in the comments respectfully, of course. I always ask that your comments are respectful, but it could well be one of them. And the newspaper is not required to disclose that. They might just say a source close to. And therefore, whatever they print is based on the information that they get from this source, and it will be whatever that discussion entails. Now, just as an aside, because I like to bring you value on this channel, I'd like to tell you about a rather elaborate attempt to scam me by email. This one was particularly tricky. They've actually gone to quite some length to do this, but I'll also tell you how to avoid the risks of this happening to you. So this is an email that I received. It says, order confirmation, blah, blah, blah. From a name, we are happy to confirm that you've received item, invoice, etc., etc. You'll get an email with confirmation dated. This is highlighted, so it's to bring its attention to today's date. And then there's attached a file. Now, at this point, ordinarily, you might think, well, I'm not going to look at any file and that kind of thing. But this was just vague enough to make you curious and just specific enough to make it look genuine. So most people would want to take a look at this. And now, while I look at this and show you, I'm going to talk to you about NordVPN, because this will help you to protect yourself against such scams and malicious files. Now, in this case, this file itself wasn't malicious. Not only is it scanned by Gmail, but it was also flagged up as being safe by NordVPN. Now, you get an exclusive discount with NordVPN. It's a fantastic deal with 4 extra months on a 2-year plan and up to 20 gigabytes of eSIM data at my link in the description, nordvpn.com/BBB, because you guys gave me that unique name. But let me show you this file, because when I open this file up, it's not just an invoice-looking document from PayPal. It's all fictitious, obviously. Even this address down here doesn't even exist. But it makes it look like there's an invoice and I've been billed and maybe charged for this amount of money, and it's designed to look like a genuine invoice. Now, the bit that's really bizarre about this is that it's even got an email address in here, contact@blackbeltbarrister.com, which is an email address that I use for my blackbeltbarrister.com website. And so they've dressed this up to make it look like a genuine document. Now, your reaction to this might be to respond and say, hey, hang on a minute, I didn't order this stuff from you. I didn't order a package worth $400 from you. And you know, who are you and why are you billing me this money? Now, this address I couldn't even find when I put this into Google Maps. I'm curious about these things, so I dropped that address into Google Maps and nothing turned up. Now, this is obviously a scam and a con email, but the bizarre thing is that the attachment flagged up as being safe. Now, this is a different type of elaborate scam, but with NordVPN, I am curious about these things, and some of them might be genuine and some of them are obviously scams. Now, you can see from this panel here, because NordVPN has a file protection and scanning system, which will tell you that this file is marked as safe. And it's scanned the file before I attempt to download it and tells me that it's safe. There is also a web protection feature which has scam detection, malware blockers, web track blockers, all sorts of other things, and keeps you safe when you're online. And not only that, if you're out and about and you want to share files between your machines or between you and other people, NordVPN has a secure mesh net to securely send each other documents and things like that. You'll get a unique web address. And more generally, NordVPN will block all sorts of attempts to access and track and trace your system, your IP address, your location, and your online activity, and all those kind of things. So it is well worth signing up for this, because when you get an email like this one and you want to check whether it's a genuine file and whether there's been some mistake and you want to open it and check it, then NordVPN will scan this for you with the malware scanner. And it will also, not that I suggest that you download any files, and I don't suggest you click through to any links. But if you are wondering whether it's a genuine one and you want to click through, NordVPN will help to check whether it's a malicious website, a malicious file, and that sort of thing. So I find this quite a brazen attempt to scam me, because they expect me just to come back to them and say, what do you mean? You know, I didn't buy anything from you. And then doubtless they'll try to get some other information from me and scam me in some other way. I'm not interested. I'm binning the email, and that is the end of that. But do check out my exclusive discount to NordVPN in the description below and on screen here. I paid for it with my own money, and I've had peace of mind ever since. And then they became a partner to my channel, and I'm very pleased to share that discount with you. So check it out. Thanks for watching, and now let's get back to the video. And the idea behind this all, of course, is that we have always maintained a free press. And the idea being that the press, the news companies, the newspapers, the news TV shows, and really anyone who is journalistic in nature and wants to create their own publications should be free to do so, and should be able to speak to sources, use those sources in their publications, and not be forced to disclose their source. Otherwise, it would hinder the free press, because if they were required by law to disclose the source of this information, then in theory, nobody would come forward with that information, because no one would necessarily want to be revealed as the source of that information. So, for example, if there were somebody, and it might well be a breach of confidence, as you'll have gleaned by Prince Harry's claims for phone hacking and all of these kind of things, there might well be a breach of confidence. For example, if they employ somebody, not Prince Harry, anybody, they employ somebody as, let's say, a housekeeper, a gardener, a groundsman, or whatever, and they are privy to that information, but there is a necessary quality of confidence in that they shouldn't reveal the information that they know and they find out by working in the household or working for them in private, in confidence, and they shouldn't reveal that information. But at the same time, whilst there might be a breach of confidence claim against the person for revealing that information, the newspaper's sources are protected in the sense that it is not contempt of court unless, as I said, there's some reason that the court sees fit to order the disclosure of who that source is. And that must be in the interest of justice, which is a broad and sweeping argument, but it can be a difficult test to meet, or national security, or for the prevention of disorder or crime. So in the sense that there might be some disorder or crime, for example, if it were to prevent a crime, then the court might say, well, we need to know who this is because we need to speak to them because we need to prevent this crime or disorder. Or if it's in the interest of national security, we need to speak to them because we need to eliminate this threat to national security or whatever. And I just realized this video might now get flagged for saying that so many times. So if anyone in the services are watching, I apologize for wasting your time. This is obviously not what you're supposed to be watching. So my apologies, but there we are. That is just some scenarios that the court may order the disclosure, but otherwise they won't. And in that broad sense, newspapers can print, in essence, whatever they see fit. But they should and would usually have a source and fact check that source. And as I say, for very much more detail and discussion on that point, not that it's legal advice, it's all guidance, check out my video with Alan Robert Shaw over on Black Belt Secrets, and check him out on Art of Law. He's growing massively. I'm really pleased for him. I'll link his channel in the description below. Go and check him out and make sure you're subscribed. Lots of different subjects from our owl while he's on his travels in different places. Check them out. You'll find something there that you enjoy, I promise. So with that, I thank you for watching. Thank you for checking out my partner for the channel, NordVPN. And as always, thank you so much for watching.